in this video, we're gonna learn how to properly brace our core, how to build awareness and strength, starting with learning how to turn on some of those deep foundational core stabilizers that oftentimes we don't truly know how to engage properly. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go over a few little progressions to help you work on this. And this is going to be an intro video of sorts to our foundational core series, where we truly are starting at ground zero and building you up, learning how to build all kinds of awareness in those deep foundational core muscles. In general, your core strength is such an important component of your fitness, from an injury prevention standpoint, from a low back health standpoint, and just for ensuring that you can get the greatest bang for your buck out of the exercises you're doing and the riding that you're doing. So let's get into it. So I find that laying down on your back is, for most people, the easiest starting point for us to start building awareness of your core. So what comes to most people's minds when you think of the core is this superficial six-pack muscle that lays right on top, up and down in the center. That's called your rectus abdominis. And that is just one of many core muscles. And that one, which is targeted most through exercises like sit-ups, crunches, that's a very last priority, I would say, a very advanced muscle group to really target and work aggressively, okay? So if you dive right into exercises that target that superficial muscle, you are leaving a lot of important things on the table. So from the deepest layer outward, you've got your intestines hanging out in this area, right? You've got your vertebrae of your lumbar spine, a lot of important things going on in this abdominal area. And on the deepest level, from a muscular standpoint, wrapping all the way around us from our low back, that muscle is called your transverse abdominis. And that is going to be one we're really focusing on throughout this core strengthening series that acts to brace and support our lower abdominal area. Then moving outwards, we have our obliques. We have internal obliques and external obliques running from our rib cage down to our pelvis in diagonal fashions. Those guys are what is responsible for a lot of your rotational movement. Of course, you have your up and down vertical rectus abdominis that takes care of flexion, bending forward, crunching this area. But also you have all of the muscles of your low back. That's also a part of your core canister. All these little muscles that run in between each vertebrae in your spine for stability there. You've also got on the top of your core canister, if you think about your core as a little cylinder here, on the top we have our diaphragm. That is the big balloon-like breathing muscle. So your breath is very tied into your core awareness and strength. And then on the bottom side of our core canister, we have our pelvic floor that helps to support from the bottom up. So your core is a lot more than just your six-pack muscle. Let's try to look for and feel that transverse abdominis, that deeper innermost core muscle. So laying here with your feet flat on the ground, I want you to take your fingertips, find those pointy bones of your pelvis, your hips right here in the front. You're gonna go right an inch or two inside towards your belly button. And right here, I want you to take a deep breath and cough a little bit. And you'll feel some muscles brace under your fingers. What you're feeling there is, at least partially, your transverse abdominis. So now what I want you to do is move your pelvis around a little bit while you're laying on the ground here. If your pelvis was a bowl, I'm spilling the bowl forward, spilling it back, tucking your tailbone out and under, creating an arch with your back and then flattening it out until you settle into a nice middle neutral spine position. So we're not trying to crank our backs flat to the ground and tuck our butt under us. We're not trying to arch our back. We're nice and neutral here. And in that neutral spine position, you try to create a wall with your belly muscles here. Not bulging out. It's not like you're You're trying to puff air out. You're trying to brace and tighten up like if you were getting ready to cough. Think about if you were to see somebody go to punch you in the stomach, you would brace and tighten up to create a wall to protect your belly. Keep your fingers there to identify that it's still engaged, and still breathe. That is step one, is can you consciously turn on those muscles, create a little bit of a wall, even if you can just barely feel it there. And you're not going to be able to take a big, deep belly breath when this is happening, but try to breathe shallowly, more up in your chest. And let's see if we can just hold for 10, 15, 20 seconds, just holding tension in that wall that you're creating, kind of bracing your belly inward, and then relax. So that's where we start. That is literally step one, is where you start. Is if you have a hard time like figuring out how to turn these things on, is you use your breath, a forceful exhale, a cough to try to feel those muscles fire up in your lower belly. Try to hold some firmness there and see if you can hold that while still breathing. So you can differentiate the two, your breath from bracing your core. If you feel like, okay, cool, got that, no problem. What I want you to do is engage that muscle again. And now you're gonna just ever so slightly, without moving your torso, that stays rigid and still, you're gonna pick up one foot and put it back down. Pick up the other foot and put it back down. You should feel zero movement happening through your torso. So keep your fingers on your belly to monitor that. We don't want to see a bunch of rocking and sloppy movement going on here. Keep this braced, nice and still, and move those legs independently, even if all you're doing is lifting your foot up just an inch off the ground. That's where we're starting. So moving the legs is a little progression. I want you to keep your fingers on that spot to monitor. You could also slide your foot and straighten your leg out, and then slide it back, moving nice and slow and staying super focused. Do not do this stuff while you're distracted. You got stuff happening all around you, TV on. No, you gotta tune in and focus. So let's alternate sliding the legs. And what you want to focus on here is, as you slide the legs, again, if I was not monitoring my core, as I slide my legs, my ribs flare out, my belly sticks out, my back arches off the ground. I don't want that. I want to resist that, create that core stability, and move my legs independently while not influencing my midsection. Okay, so we're just trying to brace against that. Don't forget to breathe. So those are a few little progressions there that you can work on while you're laying down. Again, what you don't want is to be cheating in this process by sucking in or out air. I'm not vacuuming my belly to try to brace that way. There's nothing going on there. I'm just sucking in air through my rib cage. And I don't want to dome here. I don't want this big old loaf of bread appearing where you're bulging out because you're like pushing air out into your belly and through your pelvic floor. If you feel like you are holding everything in, if you would be, tightening up all those muscles to prevent anything from leaving your body, that's what you want to feel, is tightness there, bracing inward, creating that nice tight canister of your core. So start there. Now, getting off of the ground, what we're going to do is practice bracing that core, but now we're just doing it in standing. So you want to make sure you're not in too extreme of a lumbar position. Nice neutral midline with your pelvis, right? So we don't want club booty sticking out, and we don't want to be tucking your butt cheeks under you. Nice neutral position here. Put those hands right on that landmark, right on the inside of your hip bones here. Deep breath in. Do a few coughs so you can feel that tighten up. And then standing here, I want you to practice holding that lower belly nice and braced and tight. Think about tightening up through your pelvic floor, and practice breathing Slow, controlled, shallow breaths through your chest while keeping everything tight and engaged right here. Don't lose it. You might feel some muscles firing up in your low back too. So just practice breathing there for a minute. Relax. See if you can bring it back. Now another little progression to challenge yourself is you could stand here, tighten up your core, keep that nice supported midline position, and then we're going to shift our weight and just do little baby marches. Again, without losing that nice neutral spine, without losing that braced core. So tightening everything up here is acting to restrict and prevent excessive rocking, rotation, movement in your spine. It's supporting it, and then you're having to stabilize against some external movement there with the legs. So just a few things for you to practice. If you're doing it right, even if you have a stronger core, you should be feeling it all through that midsection there, almost like a corset that wraps around. That means you're targeting that deep transverse abdominis muscle. And have patience with yourself if you've never done stuff like this before, or it's a different approach to core strengthening that you're not familiar with. It's going to take time. Have patience. It is a skill. You will get better at it. You will develop that mind-body connection, and it will become second nature, but you got to start somewhere. So let's dive right into the foundational core series here, and I'll see you in the next video.